Welcome to another episode of Dreamchasers. Today I'm here with my very good friend, Tosin Adeniji. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. So let's just get straight into this. Who are you and what do you do? What's your background and what are you doing now?
As you said, I'm Tosin Adeniji and I was born and raised in East London and I moved recently to New York City to do an MBA, and now I work at Verizon as a product manager in the innovation team.
Okay, cool. And so what's your dream? What is the overall goal and vision? Was it to do an MBA and come to New York? Or that just the part? What's the end goal?
Yeah, it's an ever evolving dream. I don't always know the end goal, but a part of it was to do an MBA. A part of it probably was to move to a different country. This is the second time that I've moved to another country.
First time was?
The first time was Amsterdam. I lived there for a year, again because of studying.
Yeah.
And then I moved to New York, so this is the second time.
Yeah.
And so I guess the overall dream is to impact people's lives via my life. So let my life be a encouragement to others, to particularly women, particularly black women.
Yeah.
Growing up in East London, you don't often see black women role models.
Yeah.
And black people in general that you can aspire to. And so growing up, it was always important to me to try and do beyond what people would tell us to, the collective they tell us to do, and try and push boundaries, even though it might be a hazy plan at first, but try to push through the obstacles and to actually give way for others to come through later on.
Yeah.
So whether it's doing law, I did law, so I often go back and help younger people who want to maybe, or thinking of potentially doing a law degree, or whether it's working in the creative industry or now an MBA, I like to, meet people and actually encourage them and give them the tips that maybe I didn't have when I was younger. And just provide that kind of real life encouragement.
Right. So give me a high level view of how you got to where you are now at Verizon. So in terms of we know you studied law, but what were you thinking going into secondary school, uni, and you went to Amsterdam and come back? Just give me that high level view of how you got to where you are now.
If I'm being totally honest, it wasn't like a succinct plan to get to Verizon. I was never one of those people that was like, oh, when I grow up, I must be this. Yeah. I often go with where I'm at the time. So in secondary school, I really wanted to be a journalist, and I did work experience in newspapers and so forth, because that was the goal at that time. As I led into university, I started to realise as the journalist industry was dying a little bit, I wanted to do law. I liked the fact that you could touch different topics and areas and learn about these things, as well as utilising my speaking skills, my written skills and so forth. And so I did law with the intention of being a lawyer, but as I graduated, I realised I don't want to be a lawyer. So again, the plan was to be an entertainment lawyer, but instead of being an entertainment lawyer, I just dropped the law and went into entertainment. So,
what side of entertainment?
So I actually worked in a record label. So I worked in music for 4 years, and then I moved more into wider creative industry the last 2 years before my MBA. Right. And so when I worked in music, I enjoyed it. I learned so much. It was great being a young person in London working with really famous artists and so forth. But when something doesn't make sense for me anymore, that's when I shift. So music didn't make sense for me anymore. It didn't make sense for me to work in a record label. I wasn't being challenged enough. I didn't feel like I was utilising everything that I had gathered over the years. And also, more than anything, I was curious about other industries. And I think that curiosity sometimes is what leads me to the next step. It led me to move a little bit out of music and into like a creative industry. It led me to do an MBA. It led me to move into tech now. So I don't know where it's going to lead me next, but I know when it makes sense and everything lines up together. Sense, it makes money. Exactly. Well, that as well. If it makes money, it helps. But when everything lines up, the curiosity, my skill set, and the ability to learn new things, then
you're an opportunist.
I'm definitely an opportunist. In my career, I'm an opportunist. I think in this industry or in this time, when you graduate in the recession, it's very difficult to be like maybe previous generations and say, you know, I'm going to stay as an accountant for the next 40 years because, you know, these days jobs they don't exist sometimes. So what I saw in music was that you have to have the ability to change, the ability to be flexible, because the time I was in EMI, digital music was becoming a big thing. So we're going on the business model of selling CDs, but then there's Spotify and iTunes that are completely different and minimizing our business model. So that gave me a real life example of, okay, look, this industry is dying and other industries can quickly die and other roles can quickly die. So I always think it's better to stay curious and stay flexible rather than like stay in one position. So I totally think like university and everything like that is great. But if you're studying, for instance, a politics degree, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a politician, but you may use those skills that you learn into something else. And that was the case for me. All the things that I do in my job right now, a lot of the fundamental skills came from me doing a law degree, like speaking to people and communicating and influencing and writing and so forth. So it definitely, when I talk to younger people, I always say, like, whatever degree you do, just think about the transferable skills that you can apply to different roles and be flexible, because the role that you might really, really want may not even exist today. We live in such a like forward-thinking world. Product manager was something I never knew what it was a few years ago. So, but now I enjoy my role a lot. So.
So it seems like each stage of your life or career, you're maximizing the moment. So whether it was school, college, university, music label, you're just doing everything you can in that moment, and then from that it gives you a reward to something else. And
I think that's important to like be kind of cliche, but be in the moment a little bit and like really soak up everything. When I did do law, I was fully in it, and I enjoyed the law course, and that's when I lived in Amsterdam. So I even broadened out of University of Kent and went into the University of Amsterdam and studied different things, like random things like water law and like international criminal law, things that was nothing to do with me, but just so that you can stay curious and keep your mind like hearing about different things, because you never know when that might come up in a conversation or just for your own knowledge. And so maximizing the opportunity wherever you are is, I think, important. And it just makes, now when I tell people I moved from law to music to tech, they're like, wow, that sounds crazy, and you're only like 30. So it definitely paints a fuller picture, you know, when you do those things.
And you're speaking like multiple business languages, like you say, so when you're having conversations, you can talk, I mean, obviously we're not talking real languages, but you can talk on different levels with different people. In different walks of life, so it makes sense. Okay, what drives you to pursue your dreams?
What drives me?
I mean, we know you said helping people is like the goal, and that's obviously a driver, but what is another? You know, what helps you get up in the morning sometimes when it's not going so well?
I think for me, what I seek in both personally and work-wise is looking for that mixture of creativity and, I guess, a more traditional approach to things. So analytical. I'm very creative in one sense. Like, I've created a lot of content that's out there. I've been a part of like big projects as well where a lot of people are consuming it, and that really inspires me, because you know, you come up with an idea and then when you see it executed in the mainstream in particular, it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And you can always look back at those things. But I also like to be challenged, and I like there to be, I guess, not limitations, but some sort of analytical sense that I can like get stuck into a problem. And sometimes creativity doesn't allow for problem solving of a certain type. And so I think within all my roles, and just throughout my career, I look for creativity and analytical things. And I think that's where marketing helps a little bit. My background before MBA was marketing. Particularly in the entertainment world, because we had that dichotomy of, you know, these new players are coming in and trying to take like the business, so that's a problem. But we also have to put out like really creative, really innovative work. So that was always something that I really that drove me in the morning to get up and be like, okay, I'm happy to like go into work. And outside of work, I've always done stuff which similarly like goes across those two things. So I've worked with TEDx a lot. I've done a lot of things in my church, and that problem solving and creativity has always been something that I feel
motivated.
Yeah.
So you like to a challenge actually makes you want to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually make you want to stay in bed.
I'm always the one that's like, give me the most ambiguous problem that you don't really know what it is. That we're even trying to solve for, but give me that, and I will try and utilize like both my creative and other side to meet a solution.
So what's some of the major obstacles that you faced in pursuing your dream thus far?
So personally, one of the obstacles has just been, I guess, finding people who can get through sometimes what I call my haziness. Like, I don't always have a succinct plan. I never thought when I was studying law back in 2006, 7, 8, that I would now be in New York. But I knew that something great and big would happen. And sometimes it's, you know, we get told from a very young age to have mentors and so forth. And mentors have sometimes been difficult for me to find because they sometimes put limits on you. Sometimes they've been great at a certain stage in my life, they've been great, but other times they have been limiting in terms of maybe their own experiences. They never got to where maybe they thought they could. And so when I've suggested or said, hey, I want to do this, it's been kind of difficult for them to see the picture.
Right.
And that can be an obstacle because what they're going to give back to you is
only where they've been.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think there's definitely a place for mentors and mentees. I do some of that myself on both sides. I'm a mentee and I'm also a mentor. But I think there needs to be a wider sense of like the vision sometimes. And if a mentee comes to you and says, or comes to me and says they want to do something, I often try to not hone in on like, oh, do I understand it or not? But I'll think about how they can get there.
Right.
Think about how
try and give them the steps of the route, rather than be like, oh, this is a bit big.
And that's something like I know we've spoke about, and I've spoken with other people about, you know, when I was younger, coming out of law school. And I said I didn't want to be a lawyer. Everyone thought I was crazy. I want to work in music. It's crazy. I want to do an MBA. It's crazy. And I've had that a lot over the years, which makes you just peel back and not share as much.
So the wrong mentor could have actually stopped your trajectory, which you're on now. So it's about getting the right mentors, not just having someone. And
sometimes it comes from different people. Like I think sometimes we can look just to one person or one or two people, but actually some of the best mentorship that I've had is actually just from friends, and they don't know they're my mentor, but I will bounce an idea off of them and they'll encourage me, give me new ways of looking at an issue or a problem, and giving me that encouragement. And sometimes I honestly think sometimes the best mentor can actually just be a cheerleader. Someone who's like, I know this is beyond crazy, what you're trying to do, or it doesn't make sense to me, but I'm going to cheer you on every step of the way. Anytime you fall or you feel like this is not going to happen, I'm going to remind you what you said to me. And a lot of people do that to me. Like, I'm going to remind you what you said to me.
When you was on your hike.
Exactly.
Now when you're low,
and now when you're low, I'm going to remind you again. So like that can help a lot. And I guess that's the way I look at mentoring now.
Okay, so what has been your lowest point in dream chasing and how did you overcome it?
I would say my lowest point has probably come in the past year. The past year has been like beyond great. If anyone who knows me knows that I got to Cornell very last minute, and it was very rushed.
Indeed.
And it was, April in London, and then May I was in New York, and that's the space of time that it took. And I'm going into this really great like Ivy League program. I'm in New York. I'm experiencing so many different cultures, so many different lessons and stuff, and I'm on this trajectory. My family are proud of me, my friends are proud of me, everything. And then my mum passes away unexpectedly at the end of 2016. And that was a huge blow for me because obviously it's my mum, but like I said before, sometimes the best mentoring has been from cheerleaders, and my mum has always been my biggest cheerleader. And having that happen in the middle of a very intense, very difficult MBA program at an Ivy League, I don't know anyone in my family, friends that have like the same experience that I could count on. So I had to just get through with a lot of my Christian friends supported me like through prayer and just actually physically being there, but a lot of my non-Christian friends also supported me through knowing that how important my mum is to me, knowing that I'm far away from home, I'm not in London, I'm not around my usual environment. And so honestly, the only way I got through any of that is just day by day making sure I get up. And when you are studying, you can easily just stay in bed. Like no one's telling you to get up really. But that was a difficult time, but I had a lot of support from many people. And I thank God that I had that, but that was definitely like a big obstacle and a low point for me.
So with all of your multitudinous experiences, personal, victories, tragedy, academic victories, and all of that put together, what would you tell now your 15-year-old self? You've gone through all these experiences, and now, you get a chance to speak to your 15-year-old self. What would you say to her?
My 15-year-old self in East London. Oh, wow. I would actually say keep thinking randomly big. Keep thinking randomly big. Even though, the goal within my school in East London was pretty much like just get 5 A to C's. No, 5 A to E's or something like that. It was so just low. Pass. It was just basically just pass 5. Don't worry about like 9 or 10 or whatever you do. It was just like pass 5. And I was like, how can we just pass 5? Like, so if I get E's, it's all good, and that's okay. Just get to like, don't even worry about college. Like just finish secondary school, and like that was like the goal. And I personally just didn't have that as my only goal. I pushed further, and I think I would tell my 15-year-old self to keep looking at your own goal. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone may not be doing the same thing, but if you're doing the best of your ability, then I think that's like a good thing. And there are people that have done more, way beyond me, and there's other people who haven't, but like I know that I want to do my best, and I think I would just tell my 15-year-old self, just keep randomly thinking big, and don't get swayed by what people say. Don't get swayed by what people put on you. Like, hey, you're from East London, you shouldn't really be doing much. You should just like stay in East London. And this is East London pre-Olympics, so no one was trying to come to East London. No one was trying to come to Hackney. No one was trying to come to Stratford before Westfield. So, I would just tell my 15-year-old self, like, keep striving, keep thinking randomly big, because if you are doing all that you can, God will meet you at your need. And I just believe that, like, I always try to do as much as I can, and God has favoured me in so many ways. And so I would just tell my 15-year-old self, don't get distracted by maybe other people and what they say. And
on a personal level, obviously you've been through a lot. What would you tell your 15-year-old self on that regard? Because that's kind of different from, it's still you still have to dream chase, but it's different from your career and when something personal happens to you. So what would you tell your 15-year-old self, seeing the tragedy that's happened in the last year?
Man, what would I tell her? Stuff is going to happen. Like, things are going to happen. And it's not always going to be in your control. And so I would tell her, there's nothing that you go through that you can't bear, right? God won't ever put you through anything. And I remember that from being young, being 15, I remember reading that and thinking, you think about all these things, but you don't know what's going to come. But if you hold on to, like, things are going to happen, and I might not always know what's best, but just try and deal with each day. And I talk about each day because sometimes we can, especially when we're dream chasing, we can think so much, like, in the long term, 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, when I'm 30, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But actually, all of that happens just on incremental small change and steps, and getting up and doing what you have to do, and doing beyond what you even have to do sometimes, and not focusing on complaining and not focusing on, like, dwelling, and all those little, like, characteristics are the things that I would tell my 15-year-old self, like, just hold on to those characteristics, because they are what gets you to your dream. It's not suddenly day 1 you're nothing, day 100 you're something. It's day 69, big blow, it's a low moment, call up your cheerleader. Day 72, you're happy, remember that you're happy, and remember that moment, because you're going to go down again. It's those types of things. So on a personal level, I would just tell my 15-year-old self, like, remember the dream, but also remember each day. And if you can complete the day and go to bed with, like, a mindset of peace, then you've done all you can.
Do the small stuff right. Do the little things. Take each day as it comes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so who's your biggest inspiration? If you can single it down to one. You can give me 3, but if you have one, give me one.
Like, I don't really have 1 or 3 inspirations.
Give me your top 3 then.
I get inspired by people. And I always say that. I'm inspired, yes, by, like, influential, celebrity, whatever, personalities, but I'm equally inspired by, like, someone that I just randomly meet. And if anyone knows me, they know that if I'm standing in the line or in the queue, I'm probably going to speak to someone and they'll tell me something, and I'll be inspired just by, like, 2 minutes of conversation. So, like, yes, I'm inspired. I'm driven and inspired by my family, definitely. I have 2 great brothers, and my mum was a great inspiration, and my grandma was a great inspiration to me. But I'm equally driven by, like, I have, like, great friends that are continually being added to it, and they inspire me. Like, I love hearing their struggle turning into a testimony. That inspires me. And then, just random instances where I meet people, and like, that's what I get most inspired by, because I remember, if someone tells me a struggle and then a testimonial at the end of it. I remember that way more than maybe what Oprah did, or Michelle Obama, or Barack, or whoever. Like the typical people that people turn to, which there's nothing to say that that's wrong, but I'm more inspired by, like, I met a random woman in the middle of Portugal, and then she told me this. Like that inspires me.
Real stories you can
Real,
touch.
yeah. And I've got such a visual mind that if I see you and I see like the pain behind your eyes or the joy in your smile, I will remember that way more than like something else.
Right. Okay. So give me your top 3 tips or things that you've learned. On the journey so far. So 3 things that you couldn't live without, those nuggets of knowledge or those experiences.
3 things.
So I think take each day as it comes probably is one.
Yeah, take each day.
Do the little things right.
Yeah. The little things matter. And I'm pretty sure there's tons of books out there about that. But the little things do matter, and that even seeps into like how you treat people and making people feel special, and because you want to feel special, so I'm sure that your neighbour wants to feel special, and so those small things like greeting people, which is such a Nigerian thing, but greeting people and like taking an interest in what people are doing, that matters, because when you want that, people will do it back to you. I would also say stay flexible, stay curious. Like that is something that I really, really do live by, because there is nothing in this world that is necessarily permanent. Like you can feel like you've got such a great situation, but this year has taught me you can have a good situation and something just comes and completely changes it. And so staying flexible is just really important, I think, both in your dream, because you can have a vision, and sometimes you can get so caught up in that vision that it has to be exactly how you've seen it on day one. But 3 months, 4 months, a year down the line, it might be something different, it might evolve. And so I think being flexible to that is important. And then the third one, I would just say, like, push your dream. Like, if you think your dream is big, push again. Like,
look at someone else.
Look at someone, because I always do think, like, we can look at one thing. For instance, I wanted to do an MBA. I was looking at the UK. I wasn't looking at anything abroad, let alone like an Ivy League. But when you stay flexible and you stay curious, and I'm researching and this comes up, and then I applied. Look, I'm now in New York. So I had the top line vision, which was do an MBA, but I tried to stay flexible and curious within that journey so that I could see other opportunities that maybe I wouldn't have seen before. So I think that's the 3.
Okay. So to finish up, and we get to the morbid part of Dreamchasers, where I say, what do you want your epitaph to say? But better yet, what do you want people to say about you when you're gone?
What do I want them to say? Well, what I want people to say now.
Okay, we can start with that, but we're gonna deal with when you're gone as well. We're gonna keep it.
I'm gonna start from now, because I'm thinking like.
I'll allow you to adjust the structure of my interview.
I think now, I would want them to say, like, I'm their cheerleader. I'm pushing them. I'm encouraging them. It's not always delivered in a nice packaged way. Sometimes I do push my friends and family a lot, because I can see the potential, and I want them to see the potential and see where it can take them. So I think that's what I would want people to say about me now. When I'm gone, it's difficult. It's so hard to think about.
Most people find trouble with that question.
Because there's so many things, but you know, a headstone ain't that big.
One line. Well, my last episode, I said maybe it will be a Facebook page or it will be
like a micro
Twitter
site
feed.
or something.
Yeah,
I need something a bit more
yeah
context.
But since we're gonna deal with now, and it's just a line.
I will hit on topics. I don't know what it will exactly say, but the topic around caring for people and loving people, definitely. Encouraging people and pushing people, definitely. And being a change maker in some various ways. And just going back to before, I don't know what that could be today because I continuously evolve, but I definitely want to make change for particularly like women, particularly black women, particularly black people. It's so important for me to see other role models in the community, and so if I can be one of those role models, and I don't feel far away and Oprah-like and untouchable, but actually like, hey, no, a regular person can hit me up and can reach out to me, and I feel a bit more tangible, then that would be like the best, because if you can feel tangible and real to someone, then you're going to start engaging and have that dialogue going. So
she helped, she changed, she cheerleaded.
Cheerleader.
Okay, well, thank you for today.
Thank you.
And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again on Dreamchasers.